Hello, this is part two of our best of all time podcast. Joined with Marcy, May, and Leafy. So
Sir?
today we're going to be counting down numbers 80 through number 60. First person we will be starting off with is Artemis, if that's how you pronounce it.
I do believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was my ally. Another Australian outback person that I didn't want to let go.
From the looks of it, being Marcy's ally doesn't seem to be a safe position.
No, it doesn't. It's really not. But me, him, and Teo had like a little trio thing going, and we were going to get rid of, I believe it was Don, because Don and Sarcasm were so close, and we were like, that really scares me. And we were ready to do something, and then Artemis just went inactive for like a day and a half, and we were like spamming him. I don't know if you guys saw in the last All-Star season on the Hue vote where May was spamming me like all morning. It was
I
like
looked
that.
like a simp. God.
It was like that, where it's just like Art, where the fuck are you? Art. But because we couldn't get a hold of him, we just had to vote him out. It also turns out like we found out that he was an alt, like later. Not an alt that cheats, but an alt of a banned player. If that makes sense. Like someone that's on org portal that's banned and they just make a new account so they can keep playing.
Right.
But I don't think he cheated or anything.
Hey guys, wait, sorry for everyone listening, but we missed Yuli. Like he's not on the list. But how did we end up with 114?
Yuli doesn't exist in the game because he got removed before the game started. So he got removed in turn with Chu.
Yeah.
So Sarcasm
That's
replaced
right.
Yuli and Max replaced Chu.
Sorry, this was before I was a host. I'm allowed to flop. Keep going.
So
It's
yeah,
okay,
that
we're
was
used to
that
you
was pretty much
flopping.
Artemis.
79, we have Banjo from season.
King.
I can say
King
about
Banjo.
Banjo, he was like one of the few people who like saw May as a threat early on. Like he tried targeting you, and obviously it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, he hated my guts. Like it was so funny. His entire confessional is just very anti-May. But you know what? I feel like what I liked about him was he was really proactive and like determined to like create chaos. And I think it would have worked if the rest of us weren't tight knit, if that makes sense. Like, so what he did was he basically made an alliance with all the ladies and told us to vote one person. And he made an alliance with all the men. He made an alliance with all the men, telling them to either vote me or Issa. And all we had to do was exchange notes and be like, yeah, so this guy's playing us. And because he played way too hard and people could see what he was doing, he was voted out. But like props to him, like the chaos he caused was just so fun. And I like that he had probably one of the best reads off the room apart from that day. Like he knew who was kind of with everyone and he tried to do something about
who was goading.
Yeah, like he could see that, and like so props to him. He just went about it probably a bit too aggressively.
And next up on number 78 is Golden, also from season.
Golden. He was the runner-up. He was a really sweet guy.
I would say
you're being very nice.
I think the best move he did was aligning with May and then getting. I think that was his best move.
Aligning with May. Yeah, I think Banjo was basically once Delta went. Banjo was
Golden.
like, yeah.
Yikes!
Sorry,
she can't even remember the name of a runner-up.
Yeah, he said Banjo.
It's because he's left the community now. No, Golden was probably my closest ally. I think once Delta was gone, because like he would do whatever I asked him to do, And even when I forgot to include him on a vote, he was still okay with it and was willing to do
which is
what I asked him
ridiculous.
to do.
Yeah.
Never be okay with that.
Never be okay with that. But
Never be okay with being second fiddle.
Yeah.
if you're waiting
Unless
for
first
someone's
fiddle's
orders,
for sure gonna go.
Yeah.
yeah,
Unless you're biding your time, but never be okay with going to the end as second fiddle.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
yeah. But anyway, he went to the end with me. Yeah,
Got a vote.
People do say like he did get a vote as well. Like he got a vote from Luke, who is his really good friend outside the game.
Haha, no perfect game.
Yeah, sucked in,
perfect
mate.
game.
You're
Yeah.
shit.
You're bad.
What can I say? I suck
Not
as a
good.
player. If you don't
Bad.
get 7 votes at a final tribal council, what are you doing? Like, if you
Yeah,
only
exactly.
get 6,
3 people on gone.
Lissa, Joey, and Yeet send their regards.
They don't understand. You're way too far down there.
Yeah.
all right. Anyway, who's next, Jack?
Okay, so moving on, we have Danny at number 77 from season 2.
It's my boy.
Another
Golden
Marcy
for
ally.
Marcy.
This is Marcy ally that lasted longer than Marcy. Thank you very
Good
much.
job, Marcy ally.
Yeah. So what he shouldn't have, to be fair. Basically, like after Teo went, who was basically like my duo, that I had to let go. But after Teo went, me and Danny really linked up, and we sort of made some moves together. He was part of the 4 that kind of flipped the game on its head when we took out sarcasm. And after that happened, there was a chaotic vote at the final 7 where Lissa and Ant-Man flipped back onto Danny, but Chloe self-voted, which meant that it was a tie, which meant that we had to re-vote, which meant that it ended up saving him. Then afterwards, they saw me as the bigger threat. They took me out, and then Chloe was... they wanted to extend an olive branch to Danny by just letting him stay longer than Chloe, who was inactive. So I do think that he made it a bit further than he had any right making it, and he was sort of content with, like we talked about Golden, with riding coattails. But he did make a very loyal ally, which is good for a player, but not good for a winner.
Exactly.
So at number 76, we have Gummy.
Wait, can I just
2.0.
add something about Danny?
Yeah, sure.
One thing I really liked about Danny, which I thought was super smart that he did, was during the pre-merge, he knew where all the votes were going. He knew who was going home. But he always threw his vote onto Chloe, even though no one else was voting her.
We all thought
And
she
when
was.
I asked him
we all
about
thought she was
this-
self-voting.
Yeah. And when we asked him about it later on during his exit interview, he was like, oh, yeah, so why I'm doing this is because once we hit merge, it's going to be past votes. And I don't want people targeting me. I'm going to tell people that Chloe has the most votes so that they target Chloe. So if anyone's going to flip, at least I'm not going. And he did that. Like I remember him telling Hugh that Chloe has the most votes. And Hugh in turn told him that he had the most votes. And
That's
so
an
I just
interaction.
thought that was quite clever.
If Hugh doesn't have a brain fart at that point, that whole game can be so different. But yeah, very, very smart. That was a very underrated move by Danny, actually. I don't think that a lot of people give that enough props. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, now we have from All Stars.
Sorry, Jack?
Gummy 2.0 from All Stars.
Oh, does someone else want to take this, or?
No, I think
Oh.
Marcy should take this. I can't think of anyone better to do it.
Oh my god. Okay, me and Gummy didn't really see eye to eye, I guess. Would say, and I didn't see myself trusting him. So he made, I believe, he didn't really actually play badly. Like a lot of All Stars was a bloodbath. So he's not like, it's not like he played terribly, but he just made one error where he told Navi the vote, and I believe we talked about it with Navi's like when we talked about Navi in the last episode, where she knew she was on the bottom and she went to work and she just flipped it. Also, I just flipped it and basically said, "Look, guys, Gummy said the real boneheaded thing that he said is that he said I want to flip, but I can't do it right now." So we took those words where he said I want to flip and just like absolutely hammered it into everyone's head, saying if he says he wants to flip but he won't do it now, we have a dissolve coming, we have swaps in this game, he will flip, and we can't have that because we need this loyalty. And although people were skeptical, I guess it eventually just went that way where we ended up voting Gummy out and blindsided hard, as you saw by his reaction in the tribal.
I think the hard part about Gummy and what we learned the most from Gummy 2.0 is that if you're going to play the game with morals and like have that strong moral compass, you have to be not necessarily okay with the results of that, but you have to find a way to play with your moral compass that doesn't self-destruct your game. Because I think what he did was in line with his moral compass, telling Navi she was going home. But the way he did it wasn't the best way to keep him in the game. It was more of a personal moral move rather than a game move. You know what I mean?
Not only that, but he didn't have the social capital to be able to say that. He was very busy with streaming. I remember me, Joey, and Amy were bitching about it a bit. Actually, we were saying that like, how does this guy have enough time to stream all this, but not enough time to like help us out with his challenge and stuff like that? So he was very busy, and because he had that, like, I guess like he wasn't in the, we called it the 3 active players because Navi, Locke, and Gummy weren't very active at the start of the game. As he didn't have like the capital in that core 3, he didn't really have the leeway to be able to do a move like that and get away with it.
Right.
So at number 75, we have Jingles from season 4. Another 12th
yes.
Jack in the game, but we moved it to Jingles so that we wouldn't get confused.
Yeah.
Jingles, the idol hunter.
Another person who fell victim of the Maramu
The
just
absolute-
throwing
the
literally
throwing.
everything they could touch.
Yeah.
And by they I mean we, because that was me. But good guy. I remember he tried super hard when he was the vote. Like when I mean super hard, I mean like he went to Amy and convinced Amy there were idols in a season that didn't have idols, which was a headache for me because he wanted me to go home, I think, if I remember correctly. So Amy's like, I don't know, I might have to vote for you if there's idols. And I'm just like, Amy, come on, man. No idols.
Just use
She's
Wikipedia.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, Google it. But she's like, Jack said he found one. And I'm like, did you Google it yet? But, good guy, played super hard, just was with throwers.
Wrong side of the throwing. Yeah.
Yep.
That happens sometimes. Just that's like how why Survivor's so weird. I always talk about how if you play a season of Survivor, like you do it 20 times, you'll get a different result each time. Like it just depends on the way things happen. And sometimes people don't get where they deserve to be just because they get on the wrong side of like, say, like a throwing tribe and stuff.
That he was super unlucky. I strongly stand by the fact that if he was placed on the other tribe that didn't have the throwers, I think because of how good he was socially, he would have been a problem down the road. Like a pretty big problem come merge.
Not as much of a bigger problem as someone that we'll see way later down, but yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, not as big of a problem as that one guy, but you know,
yeah,
we'll get there.
So at number 74, we have Sam, also from season 4. He was one of the
another
merged.
Marquesas rep. He was on my original starting tribe, and we were actually the 2 people who out of the gate started playing the hardest. And I knew that because we didn't know the server was one-on-ones. So we DM'd each other and just said hi, and then we both awkwardly said, wait, we have a one-on-one, and then proceeded to never use the one-on-one. But he was someone who's playing super hard. He tried to flip on the original tribe, which after 4 rounds of that tribe throwing to get other people out was never going to happen. I think he's a smart guy. He tried to play too hard considering the circumstances, though. That's my read on it.
So
was this a merge boot?
Yes,
Sorry?
Yeah, it's the merge boot. But he didn't make jury.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what happened here at the merge? Like, was it
That's a great question.
Was it just a tribal thing?
Originally wasn't necessarily supposed to be. So Sam actually made an alliance chat with Josh and I, trying to get us to join him and the members of row 2 that were left. And Josh and I were actually pretty for it up until the person that Jack and Marcy alluded to, Bryson. We found out that he wasn't so gung-ho about it and was actually closer to Scooby than we thought he was. And that's when Josh and I jumped ship and we didn't end up flipping, and Sam went home as a result for trying to start the flip.
Ah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so at 73 we have Sis from season 1.
Sis robbed
Delta and
goddess.
Fuzzboy killed her.
Delta and Fuzzboy literally killed her. Like, I mean, I wasn't on her tribe, so I don't know what really went down. But from what I heard, in the vote beforehand, the one where Fuzzboy went because he was accused of cheating, he'd been throwing Sis's name out solely because he caught wind from Delta from the other tribe. Issa wanted to start an all-girls alliance with myself, Issa, and Sis. 3 ladies, 7 guys if she made merge. And they were so scared of us. They were like, no, we can't risk it. Sis has to go. Like, Sis
The boobs, I'm
has to
telling
go.
you.
Women are scary, do they have cooties?
Women are scary. And so, yeah, that's why it was her instead of Ketty. And obviously, then she had to throw out a name too. And I think she was going for either Luke or Nick. And obviously, when Nick hears his name, and he goes like, he loses it and he'll attack with everything he has. So,
I also think, like, I want to make mention it's important that she actually went home after Delta and Fuzzboy, but the collateral of what they did still affected her.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just unfortunate, but
couldn't really escape that. Yeah, the rumors and all that.
Once you get a tag, it's very hard to escape it.
You only run so far from public perception.
Especially with, like, I'll talk about, like, way later when we get to, like, All Stars, but there were a couple people that have tags in that game that I don't really think were as deserved as they were, but you just can't run from it once you get stuck with it early in the game.
Agreed.
So at 72 we have Josh 2.0 from All Stars.
Do the hosts want to take this? Because this was on neither of our tribes, and I heard this was chaotic.
This was one of the most iconic votes, in my opinion, in the server's history. Would you agree, Josh? Would you agree, Jack?
Yeah, I would say this was the most, hands down. Pretty much.
It was crazy.
666 wanted out of the gate to take out someone like Lisa because she was a big winner, and I think it also had to do with her being another like female on the tribe. Like they didn't want aligning up, like come and dissolve her. So they wanted to do Lisa that vote, and then everyone had their votes locked in. I think it was 4-2 at that point. I think Ryan, Josh, I believe, but Lisa was going home, and then she ended up going off in the tribal chat and was like talking with Nick and like why she should stay, and then he was like, all right, I think it's a good move because I don't actually want you to. I just thought all the numbers were like you're going your way. At that point, he was able to flip Nick. They tied 3 on Josh. At that point, I think the revote another like 20 eventually.
Yeah, I heard that 666 held the vote for the full 24.
He did, which is well within his rights. He was really, really, really trying hard to not have Josh go and to have Lissa go.
Yeah. And he just ultimately, Josh went home there on the revote. And he had, I think he performed the best on that day.
He did. He was the only one, I think, to score a point for them, right? Or like he scored the most points because it was the.
Yeah, I think he scored a point because it was like the puzzle.
Exactly. Where you got the 3 different challenges.
Crazy. I like when we heard about that, like, I don't know about you, May, but I was like floored at how mental that is, where it's like a tie vote in the first vote and then a flip and then it going crazy, and Lissa said that she called them all dick fucks in the chat,
Yes.
and just
And other
stuff like that.
things.
Where I just could. It was, to me, if I saw it, like I don't blame you guys for saying it's like the moment of the entire server.
Yeah, I would say the entire season. That changed the entire season if Lisa goes there. I just can't think of a bigger vote. Like the entire diamond.
Yeah. The dynamic of Moga Moga was shaped by this vote.
Which like then benefited the dissolve players and stuff like that.
Right. And that led to SMM and Ryan becoming closer. That led to Lissa sort of having a bigger target on her back in the eyes of SMM and Ryan, who were her allies. But now it's sort of, oh my god, she just did that. There's every Mogo Mogo like interaction was affected by that, and then Triple especially was affected by that. Triple and Nick.
Ridiculous. It's unfortunate that when things like that happens, there has to be someone that goes out, but that's just the nature of the game.
Right.
And I think I've noticed that, like, just talking about when we're supposed to be talking about Josh 2.0, we're more talking about what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like, because I think he might have been a really strong player had he just been in for longer. But he was outplayed, and that's just that.
I do know that after his season, he went to Scooby because I believe that Marquesas was his first season.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Orgs, he went to Scooby and said, look, like, how do I get better? Because, like, obviously Scooby won. He's just, like, looking for advice. And Scooby was like, look, just don't come out of the gates hot. Just, like, find your footing. You know, like, the standard Org thing where it's like, don't come too hard too early. Find that name, throw it out,
Right.
and you'll be okay. And so I remember talking to Scooby, and Scooby felt somewhat bad if he was responsible for Josh being a bit more passive here. But I don't even think that he did much wrong. Like
it wasn't him being wrong. It was just Lissa pushing back. It's like when you're trying to, I mean, just physically, if you're trying to push, like let's say a wall against someone else who's pushing a wall, it's so much easier to start pushing that wall first because once that other person's pushing, it's way too hard to push back. And Josh again wasn't really in a bad position. Lissa pushed hard, and by the time that Josh was able to counterattack, Lissa just had pushed so hard, it was hard for him to really do anything about it.
Am I not mistaken by saying that it wasn't ever Josh until the last like 5 minutes where it was 4 votes on Lissa, 2 votes on Nick, and then Lissa and Nick came together and were like, all right, let's do something that benefits us both.
It was a little more than 5 minutes, but it was last second, right, Jack?
It was pretty last second.
Yeah.
So it's just like he wasn't even the target, going from like no votes to going home within.
I think for Lissa, I think it was something to do with like he was the only viable person to go after.
Right. He was just. I think, in my opinion, he was mainly a casualty of Nick and Lissa, the two people in trouble and smart players coming together.
Yeah.
More so than anything he did wrong, like we keep saying. But I mean, it's tough. But he really didn't do anything wrong. He played a good game. Just, yeah.
No worries. But yeah, I feel like that's like almost like the biggest compliment that we can give him is that we didn't talk about him doing anything when he came 17th, because it's just a very unfortunate.
Right, like most of these low placements are a big mistake or an activity, but like that was just unfortunate.
Yeah.
So at number 71, we have Max from season 2.
Max was, I don't know. She was, first of all, she was an alternate. So if you come into the seat, you saw with like Hunter, way down there, that if you come into the season very late, and replace an alt, it's very easy to find yourself falling out of the status quo very quickly. So very like a lot of credit to her for like finding her footing. But then come merge, she was somewhat of a floater, but was able to flip back and forth enough to impact the season more than your standard like quote unquote GOAT. A big thing that happened that shaped her season was there was a lot of misconception surrounding the Hugh vote. I know she was one of the people that flipped, so did Lissa. And when Hugh left, instead of deleting Hugh out of the alliance chat got deleted. Max took it as the former Ogre Core people just being like, no, we don't like you anymore because you flipped, and kicked her out of the alliance, which allowed someone like me and Danny to swoop her up for a vote or two. And then once Lissa went back to her and healed those wounds, and they realized that it wasn't the case, she was able to go back. But part of like the Ogre Core trio that made it to the end, despite being 5-3 down, and just fell short right at the end because Lissa wanted to be more loyal to Ant-Man, who has been with her the whole time. Although, albeit, like, I don't think that she does any damage to Lissa should she make the final.
So at 70, we have JSF season 5.
It's Elon Musk's
Mutiny.
son, is it not?
Elon Musk,
Yep.
baby.
And the thing about JSF is he was able to see that he was on the bottom of his tribe. He took advantage of the and went over to Shuigan. It helped him a bit, but it didn't help him a lot. He ended up getting 10th.
But it's further than how I believe he would have made it should he have stayed
like
on.
first
What?
or second boot on Sukjai.
Well, it's tough because, I mean, it's one of the situations where he would have been the boot, but that tribe just kept winning. So, like,
Yeah,
it's sort of the dichotomy of I'm in trouble, but am I in trouble now? And I think he sort of tipped the balance a little. I think he either thought they were going to lose, or just he got scared of that I'm going to be the boot, whereas that tribe was not going to lose to Chewie.
Can
Like,
I ask, because I don't remember super clearly, if Sukjai lose, does he go home over Andrew?
no,
I think
I
it's
do not
debatable.
believe so. I think it's debatable, yeah, but in my opinion, I don't think he does.
No, I think Andrew goes.
Okay, well then, yeah, then it seems like it might have been a misplay to Mutiny, but from his perspective, he's obviously trying to protect himself, and so like you don't know. Sometimes you just have bad reads. Sometimes people just talk to people and just have the wrong read on certain things, and they make decisions based on it. So you can't blame anyone for trying to do what they think is best for
Right,
them.
and I think one of the hardest parts about orgs in general is curbing that omnipresent fear. The I'm next, I mean, you see it all the time. You see idle plays, you see freakouts when nothing's happening. It's so hard to curb that fear that it's me next,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going
it's so
home.
easy to let that paranoia control you.
Right,
There was
and
something that I saw in Australian Survivor, the real life one. There's a player called Benji. That
yes,
one tribal council, he said, you just have to trust with your allies, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself crazy. If you just come into your tribal council, believe in the people that you work with, and whatever happens, because otherwise you're going to literally make yourself go crazy.
What about the other one, Keith Neal from or from San Juan del Sur, where he was like, stick to the plan?
Yeah, just stick to the
yep,
plan.
Yeah,
That's all you
he's
got
like,
to do.
stick to the plan.
Very but then like I agree, it's very, very easy to just let it consume you.
right. And I mean, going back to JSF, I mean, it's very easy to justify that. Look, Andrew might have gone home first, but what if they lost again? Then it would be him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, not that he
It's
didn't have
a,
any reason to, just
he
that it
took a
was the wrong
gamble.
move. Yeah, he took a
took a
gamble, didn't pay off.
hindsight is very 2020.
Right.
So now we have the big one, number 69,
Nice.
69.
5, Mishi.
Mishy.
Mishy.
She'll be
Go to
so
bed.
happy with her number.
Go to
No,
bed,
Go to
Mishy.
bed.
Go to
Go
bed.
to bed.
Mishy, so what I liked about Mishy, which I found hilarious during Thailand, was I think she was aware that for most of the game she was seen as Gummy's shadow. And so, like, she'd sometimes try to pull something. Like, I remember when she tried an all-girls alliance with Madeline and Cassie. Like, she made that
Yeah.
chat, named it "Boys Are Smelly," but never actively tried to do something with them. Like, she'd always fall back to, okay, but what does Gummy want? Okay, but what does Gummy want? And I felt like that's kind of how she worked, and also she like antagonized a bunch of people during the live challenges.
Oh yeah.
Which
She started a lot of things but never really finished them. Like you said, the Girls Alliance, she tried a lot of moves but never really committed, and like you said, always fell back to the Gummies with me. What can I do that's going to benefit us as opposed to just me?
yeah.
I also think that despite that often being seen as Gummy's shadow, and despite the fact that I believe that she had a very weak final tribal council performance because she didn't know that she could be mean to Gummy, is what she said.
Whereas Gummy definitely knew you could be mean to Mishy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So she was like, after like all of that, which are very, very detrimental because your final tribal council and your perception are the two biggest things in your game, she still got 2 votes. So if she was able to just like see a couple of things there, I think she might have had a strong chance in the final tribal council. But
I think she
Mm.
definitely. I remember in the spec chat, everyone was like, "Oh, this is going to be a super close tribal." Like I was of the opinion that look, this isn't just a win for Gummy. This is, I mean, he's going to have to earn it. And then Mishy just sort of belly flopped. And what didn't help was, you want to talk about her final 4 play?
I was gonna say I feel like Mishy would be a
Oh
lot
my.
higher if the final 4 play where basically Madeline manipulated her into self-voting. Mishy felt so bad voting Madeline because Madeline was like pretending to be so distraught. Madeline really pushed Mishy into feeling bad. And so Mishy decided in the last second, she's like, okay, I'm going to self vote. And so Madeline, as soon as Madeline hears that, because Mishy tells Madeline that, like, hey, I'm not going to vote you, I'll vote myself. Madeline's like, hell yeah, I'm going to throw my vote
I'll
on
vote
you
you.
too.
I think
and if it had been Fire, like, God knows what would have happened, but they'd been lucky it'd been a revote. Well, Mishy had been lucky it'd been a revote.
I think that's what
God.
she was planning. I think she wanted Fire, and then like she may have had a chance to prove something there, but she
Right.
didn't anticipate being like, oh, verbal revo, and then we have rocks. It's like,
Because
oh, that's not gonna work.
she would have kept Maddie's jury vote for going to Fire. She would have earned. I mean, there were 2 people, right? Like I think Tyler was one of them who's like, look, the jury wants to see what you did. What did you do by yourself? And I think if it had gone to Fire, it could have been different. I don't know if she would have
well, I
won.
don't know. I'm not of the opinion of that. I'm of the
Yeah.
opinion that even if she does that, she still loses Madeline's vote because it seems like a you got played rather than you played type deal. Obviously, it's like the perception, but to me, it looks like when something like that happens, it's often seen as like a you caved type deal to the pressure rather than just
Good
like
point.
rose to your own thing.
So it would
It
have been
was
just
a
how she put up.
UK sort of
Yeah, it was a
thing.
UK, but if she could have proved it was the other way around, maybe it would have been down to
Yeah.
how she played it in the final tribal, which, as we saw, she didn't
Yeah,
really play
she
final
could
tribal.
pull like she could have pulled like a Chris Underwood thing where she gave up immunity to go to Fire. I mean, but she did self vote, which is you could say slightly
Strange.
different than giving up immunity to do that.
Oh well. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, isn't it?
So at number 68, we have Bagel from season 1.
Bagel.
Bagel Man. Bagel would have been fine. He would have made it further because I remember there was a cross-tribal alliance made between myself, Luke, Bagel, and Golden that I had thought about going far with. But the one thing, and it's like one of those things where like you make a mistake, you make the people who are supposed to work with you not trust you, and chances are you're going to go. And so Bagel and Luke tried to pretend they're the ones who flipped on Ketty. They had no reason to do that. They really didn't need to. But they were like trying out really hard. They're like, "Oh yeah, we definitely flipped on Ketty," and I know how to count. It wasn't 7-3. It was a 6-4. And so I was like, if I'm not going to start an alliance built on deceit. Like, I'm sorry, not this early on in the merge. And so, and like the way they spoke, it was just so irritating. Like they were just like, yeah, it was definitely us. Like one of your own flipped. We should get them out. And it was just like, no, settle down. And so I think that was it. Just I went to Ludwig and I was like, I don't like bagel. And Ludwig was like, okay, I'll tell the rest of the tribe. And because we were already up in numbers, there was no like no one ready to flip just yet. It all ended up falling on bagel.
So it was more of a like somewhat similar to Banjo, where it was like he tried to do something and then just went about it with the wrong way, and it just fell back onto him.
Similar, yeah. He didn't try as hard as Banjo. He just pissed me off, and like I literally think that was that final night vote.
Two dictators in Borneo. Just you made me mad. Go away. You die.
Yeah,
now.
don't fuck with May.
Literally, I was just like, he annoyed me, like. And so I went to Ludwig, and Ludwig's like, okay, I'll tell everyone else. And I'm like, cool, thank you. And so everyone voted bagel, and I was like, hey, bye. Yeah. If bagel hadn't done that, because there was going to be a flip in the next vote anyway. Like, if bagel hadn't done that, I think Super would have gone then, and then bagel would have been fine for a bit longer, I think. Because bagel hadn't originally been like the vote until he was like, oh yeah, guys, I definitely voted Ketty. And I was like, what? Yeah, that's bagel.
I feel like you've got a lot of like harbored anger there. You really let some of it out.
Yeah.
Bagel and I had a heated conversation after just before he went. And he had words to say about me in Ponderosa. It was I'm just going to put it out here. Jack, can you confirm Borneo Ponderosa was probably the most angry?
Oh, I think part of it too was when your final tribal council speech, the one where everyone thought it was serious, but you were just joking. With the
what?
No, you had something about you joked about like, oh, they'll like vote for the other person because I'm a woman or.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that later. That's about Nick.
Yeah.
That was Nick's problem. But yeah. Anyway, that was Bagel. He was an okay player. Just don't piss people off if they're about to work with you.
The next two should be done as a pair.
Yeah.
So at 66, number 67, and we're gonna we have Fuzzboy, or I should say Delta at 67 and Fuzzboy at 66. Both of them.
Wait, so why is Fuzzboy above Delta? Like, shouldn't they be tied 66?
No, because they didn't tie for the thing and for the placement, so that always makes Fuzzboy annoyed that he didn't get 12. But in this,
so you're helping him out.
Well, I believe that Jack said that he thought that Fuzzboy was playing a very good game. Didn't you say, Jack?
I'm pretty sure Delta was playing a better game, though.
Did you see
you guys can hear how we all argue about this. Like,
yeah, this took a while to come out.
I think Delta was probably playing a more better social game, but I think Fuzzboy had like strategic side more.
Which one was on Ludwig's tribe?
Delta.
Then yeah, I think Ludwig was playing a better game.
Ludwig
was because Ludwig had such a big.
Wait, Ludwig is going to be up there in the list, but
Ludwig. We're not talking about Ludwig.
Not than Ludwig. I'm saying than each other. I think Fuzzboy had a better game than Delta then.
Okay. Yeah.
Because Ludwig had pretty good control over that tribe.
Yeah, he was. Well, no, I think he was perceived as the god. But wait, we shouldn't be talking about.
Mate,
you're right.
May's about to go. May's having an aneurysm.
I don't
like, don't say nice about anyone but me.
I don't think there was anybody on that tribe besides really Ludwig. I mean, but yeah, moving on.
Wow, Leafy, okay. Anyway, Fuzzboy and Delta robbed Kings, who would have made it so much further if Garrett hadn't been so paranoid.
He pulled the plug immediately.
Yeah, he didn't even ask them.
He pulled the iron fist. It was just like, nah, done.
He was just like, hey, we DM'd something. He's like, oh no, and then like pulled the plug. And like, that's it. Banned.
Yeah, they just left, which I find so funny.
They're both like still very active. Because if I got removed from a server from something like that, I'd be like, see ya, boys. Yep, I'm out of here.
I think they even joined. Like, when did Delta and Fuzzboy join production? Like the next season, or maybe even after.
Yeah,
I know. Well,
like not long after.
Fuzzboy was doing Edgic for my season, so yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Delta's just like the sweetest human being alive. Like even like you, like I feel like Garrett screwed him over a bit, and he would still like, even if he was been screwed over by someone like that, he'd still be active. And yeah.
Yeah, no, he's very, very, very nice.
I just find it so funny the way Garrett just pulled the plug. He was like, "I've got a moral compass, no cheating in
There's
this
no
household."
strikes. There wasn't a
Yeah, I've
strike.
got no cheating. Fast forward to Africa.
No cheating. My name is Garrett, and I don't cheat, and I don't tolerate cheating. Like,
Did
I
you
just
know
think,
cheating's wrong?
Yeah.
in hindsight, looking back at it, I'm like, okay, big guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically what happened was Fuzzboy and Delta are good friends. Got placed in opposite tribes. They do, is it writing? They write things together?
They write things together, yeah.
Yeah, so they were working on something, and they like candidly spoke about the game, which was to do with the cis concerns that she would start an all girls alliance. So then Fuzzboy or Delta, I forget which one, went back to their tribe and was like, "Oi, the other one's saying this."
I think that was
and
Fuzzboy.
Yeah, I think it was Fuzz.
which caused Garrett to be like, "See you, boys, you guys are done." But then, like we mentioned earlier with Sis, the damage had already been done. But it was a shame because from what I've heard and seen, they were playing very good games, each of them. But don't cheat, guys.
Yeah.
Cheating is wrong.
Exactly.
So at number 65, we have Claw from season. Well, he played previously on season 3 and on season 7.
This one's another disappointing one for me, honestly.
Claw, I think, yeah. Claw was on a tribe with like people like Dan who just hated kids. But I do think I think his tribe liked Claw a lot. And you can see that because like every single immunity that they won, Claw was always the one receiving the idol. Like he was known as like a bit of a token of the tribe sort of thing. But I think once Merge hit, people realized that like Claw's social connections just weren't as strong as Lee's and Dan's and Miles. In fact, I remember Claw was supposed to be the vote, but then when he won immunity, they went for Miles instead. Like, I just don't think he was ever really in the core of the tribe, is the way I saw it.
I think that's something that I suffer from, is that I watched Claw in Africa and I was really, really, really impressed. And I just don't think that he hit the heights that he did there in this season. And so, like, if I had just come into this season blind on Claw and was like, oh, okay, this guy's just playing blah, 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 7th, that's all right. Like, good job. Like, not the best player, not the worst player, just like a good, solid player. But having seen what he can do in Africa and then him coming back, I just felt like he left a lot to be desired and left a lot that he could do under the table. But that's just my personal opinion.
I agree with that. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Didn't quite live up to like previously. So at number 64, we have Issa.
I feel like Jack wants to talk about Issa, honestly.
Does Jack have thoughts on Issa?
Jack does have thoughts on Issa.
So this was a close ally of yours. Yeah. I would say this is well, you can go.
No, you go.
No, you go.
Oh my goodness.
No, not this. Issa was a close ally. She was, I think, the one thing I really liked about her was she was catty. Like if she knew people were voting her, she'd at them in the tribal chat and call them out and say things to them. Not necessarily to change their vote, but just to be like, but guess what? You're voting me, but I'm not going home. And she didn't go home for a long time. She got a lot of votes, but she made it all the way to Final Four.
She has the record, right?
Yeah,
She has the record.
Yeah, for most votes cast against. And that was
Because she
partly
was just so
Nick
antagonizing.
constantly voting. What was it, Nick? He was
It
constantly
wasn't
voting.
Nick, because Nick thought Issa had
Wait,
Issa
I
wrapped
can
around the
check.
finger.
I can check
Because
the voting.
Issa
I'm checking.
because it is past votes in Borneo instead of rocks, because people knew she had the past
Super kept
votes,
voting.
it just always
Yeah.
kept going on to Issa.
Luke kept voting her.
Super and Yeet too.
It was just a consistent trend of them, like
Just everybody.
a few players who just kept voting.
Because she was quite antagonizing. Like she wanted to be that way. Like she'd call people out, and so like, but she made it really far regardless. She was one of my close allies.
Do you
And
argue that she was like taken that far because of how antagonizing she was?
I mean, I know I kept her around not just because I felt close to her, but also because I knew that if Issa was there, people would vote her over me. Just because she's Issa. Like, people would always vote Issa over me because they felt like they were more likely to work with me than work with Issa. Because Issa
Is Issa.
if she was set on a vote, she was set on a vote and you couldn't change it. And that was that. Like, I want to see her play again, like, in her own way. I want to see like what her cattiness does when she's not with someone else who's constantly trying to defend her. Because I know, like, I spent a lot of my merge making sure the numbers were not on her. But I do think she's a strong player. Just I feel a bit bad. I feel like I might have taken her spotlight a bit.
Fair enough. Well, we might be able to see her back one day. There's always returns. So we might be able to see that, especially someone that holds a record like that. I doubt that that's going to be beaten anytime
It
soon.
will not be easily beaten. Holy cow, that is an impressive amount of votes.
It's pretty damn
16.
good.
16
Especially
with
without
season
like
of no idols.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. No idols, no outcast twist. Like she stayed in the game and got that many
Yeah,
votes.
she didn't neglect any of those votes.
Yeah, it's not like SMM who got votes then came back and got more votes. It's just nope, she lived.
She lived.
She's
Long live the
inevitable.
queen. I know she was a bit upset she didn't get into All Stars,
was
and I
a
think
bit
she
upset.
nearly did. I think she nearly did if she hadn't left the server. So like, missed opportunity.
Stay in the server, kids.
Stay in the server,
Stay in
kids.
school.
We'll do the challenges. Stay in the
Don't do
server.
drugs.
Yeah, exactly. We give a nice little survival lesson as we go through this. All right, moving on.
So at number 63, we have another former Africa player with Bailey, who also played in season 6.
Bailey is European, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
British, I think, right?
Yeah, because I remember him being very time zone affected.
BST, yeah.
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 Honestly, I don't have. Yes, he was. I'm gonna be real and say that I don't really remember much about Bailey, so I need you guys to take this.
I think Bailey's biggest impacts were
the swap.
Unfortunately, swap. But before the swap, he was a negative impact on challenges.
He did win the challenge flop award.
Yeah.
I think we made the challenge flop award for him. Oh no, we didn't. We made it for Chuegan.
Yeah, we made it for Chuegan, and then Bailey picked up the reins. But after the swap, he did start to make much more of an impact. But honestly, it was more of Princess determining that impact rather than him, because he was swapped with Savi and Princess.
Yeah.
Like we talked about with Scoob, Princess voted with the girls first, then with the guys.
And I think with I think he was just kind of like not as big of a player as Savvy or Princess in that season. And then I think people started coming for the Africa Alliance. Like, people caught wind of it, and they started coming for them. And I just remember Bailey, Savvy, and Princess going all back to back to back. And I think, was Bailey the first to go? I think Bailey was the first
I believe
to
he
go.
was.
I think he was. Yeah.
Bailey was the first to go. And
Because Princess kept winning, I think. Or at least
Princess
one
kept
two.
winning.
Uni stuff.
Princess kept winning. Savvy had stronger social connections than Bailey. And so Bailey was the one who was left behind. And that's what I remember about Bailey's game.
Yeah, there's a couple of people. It's hard to keep track of a lot of people here. So apologies if we're not super like in depth on your games, but we try to be as objective as possible though.
So coming in at number 62, we have Astro, also from season 6.
I love Astro. Merge boot.
No jury.
Merge boot, no
I
jury.
think she was so a part of the swap, right? Where she got to choose, I believe.
Yep.
How did the
I
swap
think
go
she
for her?
felt right as merge. I think she was fine because she was on the tribe
Wait,
that
wasn't
wasn't
that
Princess.
Pixel who
Right?
chose?
It was
Oh
Pixel
yeah,
who chose, but
yeah, it was
Pixel who
Pixel.
chose.
I think Astro was
She
fine in the
really
swap because
chose.
she wasn't on the Team Africa tribe. She was on the other one, so she didn't really go to tribe all that much. But come merge, she sort of just got. There were some big, like, I mean, there were 4 very big players that season, and you had TML, Triple, Moss, and Princess. And with all those competing characters, I think she sort of just got left behind from what I remember.
Is it just like another one of those collateral? Something happens and it just falls on you because it's not them.
I think so, especially
TML
with
and
4
Triple
big players.
voted with her.
TML and
TML
Triple
and
did
Triple
vote
were on
with
the
her.
outs with this.
Yeah, because I know Triple liked Astro. I'm pretty sure TML did too.
The way I saw it, I remember basically the merge happened. Princess promised Savvy and Bailey should keep them safe. And then she rounded up the rest. And then she basically said someone from the other swap that we weren't in, someone from there has to go. Savvy and Bailey didn't want it to be another man. And so it was kind of like Astro.
So
Right.
sexist.
No, it was just because she had to
Men versus
reassure
women,
them at the
season
same
2.
time. Like,
Yeah.
she did have to reassure them, like, that we're not going to, like, just get rid of all the men. So I think, but then at the same time, TML and Triple had bonded with Astro in the swap tribe. So they were trying to keep her safe, but they didn't have the numbers for it because Princess had Savvy Bailey. She still also had Kayla, and then I don't even know. I think Navi might have done a stray vote. That vote, I think, and Princess picked up Pixel as well, and Moss. So
Yeah, just a victim of like I think we talked about with I forget who, but we mentioned it on the last episode where it's just like sometimes when there's just a better player, you get left behind.
Fall victim to the
Mhm.
the pacemakers. Like in a
Exactly.
marathon. Like she was playing great up until merge and then just fell behind.
yeah,
All right, so at number 61, we have Teo, another 12th place game member.
Teo. I just want to say before we even talk about his game, Teo is like one of my favorite people that I've met through this community. Like,
Isn't
I've
he
never
like
seen
third
someone
on?
so
Teo's great.
radiant. I've never met someone so radiant in my life, if that makes sense.
Isn't he like third on the server and he didn't even play in this server?
Yeah, he
which is
hasn't played in
ridiculous.
the. He's so active. He's active in other servers. I'm in with him as well. He's just sweet guy, fun to hang with, and a member of the prestigious 12th place gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you
He
guys
invented
for
12th place game.
he did. He got the petition.
He is the
He
founding
did. He
father.
got the petition out. Oh, I remember.
He is the founding father of 12th place game.
He is. He made his statement.
Exactly.
Anyway, but I feel like Marcy should talk about him because wasn't he
Yeah,
your close
Marcy,
ally?
another Marcy
was.
ally getting sniped.
Everything Marcy touches dies.
Yep.
Yeah. So what happened was just the standard. I've talked about it with Jack. I've talked about it with Artemis. I was aligned with him, and we tried to do something, and he was on the other side of it, and I couldn't put my game on the line for someone that was going to go pre-merge. However, I will argue that this was more his fault than the other ones, and I'll tell you why. We were supposed to make a move on sarcasm, I believe, this tribal. So we got, who were the people? It was me, him, and we're going to pick up Danny and Chloe to do this. And I was going to, because of the time zone shit, I woke up for the challenge and then had to go back to sleep. And I was like, all right, Teo, this is what we'll do. Today's the day. We're doing this. I need you to make this alliance chat. Like, we're going to make this alliance chat, and then we're going to tell them what the plan is, that Sarcasm and Don are a massive duo, and we can't trust them, yada, yada, yada. Teo then makes the alliance chat and just goes, hey, guys, so what are we thinking about this vote? And he's very, I don't know what the opposite of assertive is, like passive
Right.
about it, and made it look like,
Submissive?
yeah, I get, not submissive, more
Not
like
submissive
passive.
though. It's
Yeah, more passive about it. And he didn't get his point across, which made him just look really shifty, making it a random alliance. And then so when I woke up, I had talked to everyone, and everyone was like, oh, it's going to be Teo now because he's just done this weird stuff. And then I talked to Chloe, and I was like, look, me and you, we can tie this if you want. Like, that's like, this is on you. What do you think? Because if you want to vote with Teo, I will vote to keep him with you, and we can tie this and make something happen. And she's like, nah, look, I think we got to vote Teo out. And I'm like, all right, got to do it. And then so Teo went home, and he was like, what the hell, Marcy? Stuff like that. But at that point, I just don't think that it was in my best interest to save him.
I think Teo played too hard, and I know you said that to Chloe, but Chloe had been wanting Teo gone since the Jack vote. Yeah, I just remember Chloe specifically wanting Teo gone, and the reasoning was that Teo played really hard. The Jack vote was all Teo. The next vote after that, it wasn't because Teo had tried to save Artemis. But I think people could see he was jumping ship back and forth, whereas Marcy hit it a lot better than Teo did, and so I think he was just a bit too chaotic for everyone.
I think a big thing that I was trying to do in my game, which ended up being collateral for Teo, was that if I had something that I wanted to do, I would give it to the person who I would give like the idea to someone and then get them to do it, so it looks like it's them. And if it fails, it falls back on them, which happened here with Teo. So I guess I sort of betrayed him in that sense, where I was like more looking for my interest than his. But in an ideal world, I would have loved to keep him because he was my duo. Like, I would have loved to work with him, but it's just sometimes in the game, like I said with Navi earlier, you got to know when to cut your losses, because if you fight a battle, you lose your stock more.
Right.
Love Teo, though. He's fucking god.
At number 60, I think this is the last one of part 2, is Twigs.
Yes, sir.
6.
This is a fun one because I know Teo and Twigs are super close. They host their own org together, and they're right next to each other in the rankings.
That's why we actually made this end at 60 instead of 61.
Yep.
Because we wanted them to be together.
So Twigs went off of a crazy tribal, I think.
Yeah, it was a tie, was it not?
Yeah, it was a tie. It was 3-3, and then on the revote they switched. I think partly it had to do with Princess gathering up like the Africa line, and then she was able to get those numbers on Twigs.
I really think if Twigs hadn't been in that situation, like if the Africa season hadn't happened and Princess, Bailey, and Savvy hadn't already sort of known each other, I really think Twigs could have gone quite far. Am
I not mistaken in thinking that despite the fact that it was a tie, it was all planned from the start that they were going to flip?
Oh, it was all planned. It was all planned. They said they would force the tie so it wouldn't look shady, and then they'd say that Bailey and Savvy flipped so that because they were scared of rocks, like that had been the plan. And so because Twigs, correct me if I'm wrong, but Twigs had been running Tambaki like he'd been running his tribe before the swap.
Yeah, he had.
Not only that,
Okay.
but I think it was a very good character as well, like entertaining for the spectators.
Yes.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Wasn't he the one that made the Takilaka? He's the one that made the chant, right? I think.
Taki Lama Oompa.
Yeah, the chant, whatever.
I'm
it
pretty
was.
sure that was him.
Yeah, that was him. It was great. It was glorious. I think he played such a good character. I think that really he was swap screwed. I just wish I got to see more of him.
It would have been fun to see him in.
Oh yeah.
I think that should there be like a returning season, like he's got a very, very good chance despite not making the merge. Like that's the impact that he had.
Yeah.
Alright.
So that wraps up our part 2 of the best of all time list. For part 3, we'll be continuing it. But for now, peace out, I guess.
Vote in your polls.
Vote.
Do the polls, do the challenges, and what was the third one?
Don't do drugs.
No, there was like, well, yeah, but like,
May's encouraging drug use. That is bad.
all right, let's end it here.